Good day, it's Tony Fortunato from the technology firm. Today we're going to talk about DNS benchmarking tools. I'm just going to jump right into this one. No need to really explain it, it's pretty obvious. So I've been involved in troubleshooting many applications performance issues in the past, and I determined in some cases the issue was with their name server. So problems can range from overloaded servers, that's kind of important, packet loss to and from the server, like the path if you will, misconfigured clients, server order, because sometimes your name servers are in a specific order, etc., etc. The most common way analysts test their name server is to ping it, which is a good method just to see if the server's up or if there's a path issue. That's a pretty good way to do that. NSLookup in Windows or a comparable utility will resolve the name to an IP address just to prove the DNS server is resolving the actual address. Now, there are many name servers that the client may be configured with. Wins, DNS, and LDAP are the most commonly used name servers in corporate environments. So in this article, I'm just going to focus on DNS, but in your environment, you may want to find ways of testing the other two as well. So measuring DNS performance can be achieved many ways. As part of many network tools, so a lot of tools will have utilities or a suite of tools, we'll say DNS check or test or response time, that sort of thing. So check your tools, you may have it in there already. Manually via packet analysis, good old Wireshark or comparable packet analyzer. Using GRC's DNS name server performance benchmark tool, that's a mouthful, I'm going to show you that. And using Google's Namebench tool. Now, I've also got a little bonus at the end of it, so I'm going to show you an extra one as well. And lastly, you can write your own script. So people write batch files, bash scripts, so they can do the same kind of thing. So just a few things to keep in mind when analyzing DNS packets. This is obviously a trace file. Definitely use a display or capture filter. Match up commands and responses using transaction IDs. So in this trace file, you can see there's transaction ID 0x0001. And the response will also have that as well. The reason why that's important is because if you send a bunch of queries out there and you get a bunch of responses, it's not going to be nice and neat all the time and obvious. And if you use Wireshark, you should consider using the DNS response time as a column. So you can see here it says there's time. This is 54.5 milliseconds. You can right click on that, apply as a column, and it appears on that screen. Makes it a lot easier. And then you can even export it as a CSV file or whatever you'd like to do. For the people who want to use the TranSum plugin, it's the same kind of thing. You can add that as a column as well. So this is GRC's DNS benchmark tool. Really neat little tool, just to show you what the screen looks like. So you go to the website, you download the tool, you can let it run. I do like this copy button. The copy button, it depends on what you're copying. If it's a graphical screen, it will copy the screen. Now the neat thing about that is if your results are more than what you physically see in the app, it doesn't matter, it'll get the whole thing, just keep that in mind. And if it's tabular data, then it'll actually copy it as text, right? So it's a free portable tool, right? And it's going to measure, so it's a measuring tool. It took 33 seconds to launch the tool, load the DNS resolver, and about 2 minutes to do the full test. So the pros are, I like the tabular tab, it's an actual tab, this is tabular, and copy features. So it's really helpful if you want to do your own reporting, customizing, that kind of thing. The cons though, the default list is really big, but you can always go back and remove the default name servers and just put your own in there if you'd like. I'm not a big fan of having these big, huge default lists because a lot of them may not even work or exist, or you may not know where they are, right? It may cause more confusion than it's worth. If the DNS service is not running on the target, GRC will actually say DNS queries are not being answered here. That's what it says. So you have to understand what the tool says, and that's what I did. I actually intentionally put an IP address of a device on my network that's not a DNS server or a proxy, okay? It's just a regular everyday device. I want to see what the software would have done. It also complains that that device is non-routable, which is not really true because it's on the same network as the actual test device, my laptop. And a CSV reporting would be helpful as well, because when you hit the copy button on the tabular tab, you get everything. So there's a lot of dialogue as well that you may not want. So having a CSV option would have been pretty helpful in that example. So now we have the Google Namebench, right? And this is also portable, it's also free, and it'll run tests as well. There's the URL up at the top. So there's 3 servers I put in manually with 250 queries, and it took 2 minutes. Now with the default list, I gave up. It was like I don't know. It was like 11 minutes. Yeah, 11 minutes. It was still chugging away. I gave up, and it's got a lot to do with obviously two variables: the number of queries being 250, and the number of servers being who knows, big huge list. So the pros, really nice report when it does complete. A CSV format is available, which I love. And if the DNS service is not running on the target, it identifies as queries to this host failed. So every tool is going to have its own way of doing that. So I strongly encourage you, when you run software to test anything, make sure you test it against something that you know is broken, because you want to make sure you understand what the messages mean, right? So some cons: the default settings take forever to complete. So I strongly encourage you not to use the default settings unless, I don't know, if you want to do that for whatever reason. There is no stop or cancel test button. So when this thing was stuck 11 minutes into it and it was still, you can see it was chugging away, there was no way to stop it. I had to can the actual application. I had to go to Task Manager and I had to kill it, right? So even though the software was running, the title bar occasionally would say that the application was not responding. And this is on my Alienware i7 with nothing else really going on. So it's not like I'm running it on a 10-inch netbook with only 1 gigs of RAM and it was running a bunch of garbage. This was on a pretty beefy machine. And I think the default 250 queries may be too high. That's my personal opinion. And the other odd thing about this is there's this location, your location. It says none. And when you hit the pull down menu, it's blank. So I don't even know what that is. So it's just a lot of little things that might just pay attention to. Here's an example of the actual results screen. It's an HTML page, which is kind of sweet. It gives you a little review of what you're doing, and it gives you kind of a diagnostic outline. Now, I would encourage you with any tool, especially this one, to please pay attention to what it's telling you and to manually verify what it says. So for example, a backup DNS server for this system, right? This is my DNS proxy. And it says google.com appears to be incorrect. And you're like, uh-oh, has my system been hijacked? Is there some kind of attack or malware or something going on? And then just calm down, go look up that IP, and sure enough, it is Google. So I don't quite understand why it says that. It says google.com appears to be incorrect. It may be complaining that google.com was through this proxy, maybe, right? But this one, 8844, which is Google's public DNS secondary server, it says www.google.com is hijacked. And you go, oh no, what's going on, right? And then of course you go look it up and it's not hijacked, it's correct. So I don't quite understand why the software is complaining about this stuff. And when you click on the link, there was nothing really too helpful in it. So this is really important. It's a really good tool, but you have to understand all the little nuances, what to ignore and what to take in. Then there's good old DNS Jumper. This is our bonus software of the day. Really cool little piece of software. Again, it's portable and free and all that. You'll see the write-up. That's what it looks like, and it's kind of obvious. So as soon as you launch it, it says, do you want to use a DNS server? And there's a list there, obviously. Or you can actually use this custom DNS server entry point where you can actually test things manually. And guess what? I typed in that IP that is not a DNS server, and it says access error. Good to know. If you click the fastest DNS, you get this cool list. You can check and uncheck stuff, which is kind of nice. Let me go to the next screen. You can see there's the URL. It should be in the write-up. So it's portable, it's free. The default screen makes it obvious. As you can see, the test is super fast, by the way. It's super fast. That may mean that it's less thorough or it's not doing the same types of tests. I haven't dug into it at the packet level, to be honest with you, but it's super fast. And for what I needed to do, this was really quick. If the target does not have a DNS server, it just says access error, as I showed you. And unfortunately, there's not much in the way of reporting other than this screen. But sometimes that's good enough, right? So there you go. So I hope that helps. Have a good day.